Now I'm going to deal a little bit with the why I'm here, why you're here, why this matters, before kicking over to the team at USC, who are going to talk about what the problem is with regards to Muslim misrepresentation on screen. And then the team at Pillars Fund are going to talk to you a little bit about how we can overcome this problem together. And we can. There's lots of stuff we can do straight away. But when I think about why I'm here, what I'm doing here, to be honest, the question I ask myself, I'm going to answer that question with a bit of an anecdote. My first ever film was called The Road to Guantanamo, and it was a bit of a dream job because it combined improvisational acting with the punk docudrama maker Michael Winterbottom, and it had something real to say about the world. It was about 3 British Muslims about my age who'd been illegally detained and tortured in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba for 3 years. And I was proud to be part of a story that was putting together an alternative narrative to some of the dangerous propaganda and two-dimensional portrayals of Muslims we were seeing out there. So went and did this film. It was a time of my life, went on a road trip to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. What a TSA agent later described to me as an Axis of Evil world tour. Kind of got me in trouble at the airport, but I'd recommend you go. It's amazing countries, amazing hospitality. What happened is we made this film. We went to Berlin Film Festival. Standing ovation at the Grand Palace. We won the Silver Bear at Berlin, expected to come back to the UK, greeted as heroes. But as we passed through baggage claim, some unidentified agents accosted us and forced us into an unmarked room where they proceeded to harass us. So they split us all up and they put me in an arm lock, almost breaking my arm. Grabbed my phone out of my hand, jabbing the numbers, laughing in my face, put their finger in my face and said, "Did you become an actor to further the Muslim struggle?" I was like, what? No, of course not. I became an actor because I love acting. I became an actor because I don't want to be defined by my identity, because I believe that inside each of us is all of us, that I want to be able to be anyone. And I kind of recoiled a little bit at the question. And in a way, I didn't want to be in that room. I didn't want to be thrown into the midst of a Muslim struggle. And to be honest, I don't really want to be here now, no offense. I don't want to have to be here giving these speeches or giving a speech at Parliament that I gave many years ago, or one at CA Amplify a few years after that. I want to be able to do what my white counterparts do. I want to be able to take a role, give interviews about the role, and then in between roles, prepare for the next role. I don't want to be playing roles and then giving interviews about Donald Trump's immigration policy or Muslim ban, shootings and massacres at mosques and representation, and in between roles, giving speeches like this. But the reason that I'm here is because the problem with Muslim misrepresentation is one that can't be ignored anymore. And it's one that I can't fix alone, and the handful of prominent Muslims in the business can't fix without your help. I'm here to really ask you for your help. I was reminded of the futility of kind of individual success in the face of structural problems, which is what we're dealing with today. When I was nominated for an Oscar this April, I was the first Muslim to be nominated as Best Actor in that category at the Oscars. And it was a kind of a bittersweet moment because I simultaneously wore that slightly dubious accolade with a sense of gratitude personally, and my community claimed it with a sense of pride. And by my community, I don't just mean Muslims. I mean anyone who likes to see a glass ceiling shattered. But alongside that gratitude and their pride, I also felt tremendous sadness. How was it that out of 1.6 billion people, a quarter of the world's population, none of us had ever been in this position until now? I asked myself, if I'm the exception to the rule, what must the rule be about people like me? What must the unwritten rule be about Muslims, a quarter of the world's population, and their place in our stories, our culture, and their place in our society, if any? They really kind of spun me out, if I'm honest. And the USC team are going to tell you exactly what those unwritten rules are, and the Pillars team are going to tell you how we can overcome them, and I really believe we can. But I'm here to briefly tell you that exceptions don't change the rules. Exceptions, if anything, highlight the rule, and in some ways allow us to be complacent about leaving that rule in place. I didn't always think this way. I thought that progress was linear and inevitable. But a survey of American politics over the last decade will tell you how misplaced that assumption is. Progress is not linear and is not inevitable. I always believed in the model of the 3 stages of representation. It was a kind of model I proposed in an essay in The Guardian a couple of years ago. is that any minority group's representation in our culture follows these three stages: the stereotype, stage one, the subversion of the stereotype, stage two, and then the promised land, stage three. And I'll explain what they are. Stage one is the kind of stuff I didn't want to do when I started acting. I just decided I wasn't going to go into the audition room, say Allahu Akbar, and pretend to detonate myself. Those caricatures, those two-dimensional portrayals, those Apu from The Simpsons roles. Those situations where you're in an audition room where everyone looks like you, no one wants to be there, and everyone's forced into the role of a terror suspect. That's stage one. Stage two were the kind of films that I did a lot early on in my career, and I'm really proud of. Films like Four Lions, Road to Guantanamo, Reluctant Fundamentalist, even The Night of. And stage two, these subversions of the stereotype, take place in this culturally specific, politicized, maybe even post 9/11 landscape, but they're actually trying to battle these two-dimensional caricatures, these stereotypes. And as my career moved on to stage three, the promised land, where I got to play Ruben Stone in Sound of Metal, Bodhi Rook in Star Wars, or Carlton Drake in Venom, or even when I was either non-Muslim or unremarkably Muslim, I felt that, wow, we're in a promised land, but I realized we aren't in a promised land. I'm in a bubble. And as my career shifted, my experience at airports didn't get much better than my experience at Luton Airport after Road to Guantanamo. In fact, my experience at airports continued to resemble those early audition rooms. I moved into an interrogation room this time rather than an audition room, but everyone looks like me, no one wants to be there, and everyone is forced into the role of a terror suspect. There's a handful of us in this promised land now, and I say literally a handful. I could count them all on one hand. And I'm excited to say that a lot of those prominent Muslims in the business are going to be helped launching one of the solutions we want to present to you today. But the promised land is a lonely place to be, and it's a hollow place to be if most of the rest of your people are stuck in a version of hell. The progress that's being made by a few of us doesn't paint an overall picture of progress if most of the portrayals of Muslims on screen are still either non-existent or entrenched in those stereotypical, toxic, two-dimensional portrayals. A couple of us are slashing our way through the undergrowth with a machete with some help from some of you guys, which we're grateful for, but a lot more people are planting poison ivy in our wake. Exceptions don't change the rules. Alongside Kumail Nanjiani's exceptional work in Silicon Valley, you have on the same network, HBO, 5 seasons of Homeland, Claire Danes lost in a terrifying sea of burqas on giant billboards, alongside Mahershala Ali's exceptional Oscar wins. You also have the Oscars plaudits and nominations handed out to, frankly, racist films like American Sniper, The Hurt Locker, or Argo, films which dehumanize and demonize Muslims as characters that are only interesting insofar as they are the perpetrators or victims of violence, unworthy of empathy or incapable of empathy. Alongside Rami's exceptional, groundbreaking show, you have The Boys on Amazon, a show which I loved and binged. A very self-aware, modern, hip show, one with a gigantic cast, multiracial, multi-species. You even have some half humans, half fish in there. And I can't tell you how gutted I was when halfway through that show, Muslims turn up for the first and only time to hijack a plane. Oh, actually, they turn up another time in that first series as well, at the end, to be supervillains whose superpower is to suicide bomb people. What's going on? This wouldn't be okay with any other minority group. What does it say that we can imagine even a film like Black Panther, one of the most woke, progressive mainstream moments in our culture in recent years, and Muslims turn up in the start of that film as terrorists to kidnap schoolgirls and then disappear? What does it say about our failure of imagination? We can imagine Wakanda, half humans, half fish, but we can only think of Muslims within these toxic tropes. It wouldn't be okay with any other racial or ethnic or religious group. We wouldn't think, you know what, we've got a couple of strong black leads in our shows here, so let's make the rest of the stuff completely racist. And that's what it is, frankly. I think we're going to look back at this period of misrepresentation with the same shame and sadness that we look upon minstrelsy in days gone by. It's something that has to be changed, and it's something that we can't change on our own. It's a structural problem. There is no Reaganomics, there is no trickle down of individual successes. We have to join hands. What rewrites rules isn't exceptions, but it's when the oppressed and the oppressors, whether they're aware of being oppressors, or aware of their complicity in the oppression or not, join hands, open their eyes, and make a solemn commitment to take some concrete steps. It's our responsibility as gatekeepers of storytelling. So that's why I'm here. That's why you're here, to ask for your help. And the reason it matters, frankly, is because the real world cost of this misrepresentation is measured in the lost potential of untold stories and unfulfilled careers of storytellers. It's measured in lost audiences, but it's also measured in lost lives. We know that when people don't know a minority group, the on-screen representations are far more impactful. 62% of Americans don't know a Muslim. Well, in the face of the data that Dr. Stacey Smith's team are going to show you, isn't it just tragically a matter of math that you end up with Donald Trump winning the presidential election on the back of an Islamophobic campaign, passing the travel ban? Isn't it just math that you're going to end up with the New Zealand school shooting? Isn't it tragically a case of just math that you end up with the massacre of 3 generations of one family this week in Canada? 2 parents, a grandmother, and a 15-year-old daughter, leaving a 9-year-old child behind. This is the result of dehumanizing and demonizing portrayals of Muslims. As Kashif at Pillars Fund told me, people don't just wake up hating Muslims. They believe a story that we have to look at ourselves and ask whether we are complicit in perpetuating. The Islamophobia industry is one that measures its cost in blood. You know, one of the most insidious things about these misrepresentations is the way it makes you think about yourself. And I think in part, that's why I recoiled when that MI5 agent said, "Did you become an actor to further the Muslim struggle?" I thought, man, I don't want to be tainted with that brush. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the Muslim poster boy. And yet when I go back and revisit that question, I think maybe I did become an actor to be seen and portrayed with empathy and dignity, to be seen as fully human as much as any other character in our stories or in our culture. Maybe that's all of our struggle as storytellers, to afford all of us that empathy and that humanity. Maybe that's why you became a storyteller as well. We can fix this. We are going to fix this. When our industry has the will, it can make a change. We have the resources and we have the imagination. And I'm really excited to say that we have this all-star team of almost the Muslim Avengers lined up to launch this program today. We have double Oscar winner Mahershala Ali. We have myself. We have Rami Youssef. We have the creator of Miss Marvel, Sana Amanat. We have Oscar-nominated and BAFTA-nominated documentary filmmakers Kareem Amer and Jahan Nujaim. We have film producer Rosa Atab. We have filmmaker Nida Manzoor, who just directed Lady Parts. And we're getting more and more people on board with us. But we still can't do this on our own. We need your help. And with that, I'm going to kick over to the team at USC, who are going to paint a stark picture of really what the problem is and what its impact is.